We'll handicap 8 stakes races from around the country this weekend, as we do each and every Friday. Of course, it's not just any weekend, though, Jeff Siegel. It's opening weekend at Saratoga. Racing got underway Thursday, Friday, as we stream our podcast live with the premiere. We've got carryover to talk about at Saratoga. Friday's card with a $116,000 carryover in the Pick Six. Nobody took it down on opening day. A 40-1 winner in the Schuylerville Stakes Plus helped with that carryover. More upsets at the spot coming?
Probably. I mean, you just knew it was going to be off track and off the turf for opening day. It was I knew that was going to happen, but hopefully, and the last I checked, which was not recent, but might have been late last night, it looked like the weekend weather was going to be good. Right. So hopefully on Saturday or tomorrow we'll be in good shape for that. Decent stakes races, didn't get the field sizes that I was hoping for, and that was kind of a problem last year as well. So I'm going to keep track of that. But we have some good other races around the country in the lesser tracks. I say lesser, not the big tracks, but there's still some good racing we can look at. As I at home here in California await opening day at Del Mar next Saturday. It's going to be a tough 7 days for me. I can't wait for that to happen. But we've got some good races here. Monmouth's got a couple of races I like, very much so. In fact, I think my best bet of the day is at Monmouth. We'll get to that shortly. And I like the affiliate at Woodbine, a two-year-old that I like as well. So we got some chances to make some money.
Excellent. For those of you watching on X or on YouTube, be sure to like, share, send this out. Comment in the comment section, too. Help us grow the audience for the First Call podcast. For those of you listening on our traditional audio podcast channels, here's a rundown of the stakes races that Jeff and I will handicap over the next 40 minutes or so. He mentioned the My Dear Stakes at Woodbine for the 2-year-old fillies. That'll start things off for us. We'll stay in the Eastern time zone to the Aelia Stakes at Gulfstream Park for the Sprint fillies on Saturday. Then we'll go to Horseshoe, Indianapolis in Middle America for the Caesars Handicap week after the Indiana Derby there at Horseshoe Indy. At Monmouth Park, they get geared up in another couple weeks for the Haskell, but they've got the Boiling Springs and the Blue Sprinkler. Bees are wild at Monmouth Park with a pair of stakes that we'll talk about. And then at Saratoga, some smaller field sizes in the Kelso, the Sanford, the Diana, the main event race. So we will look at all 3 of those stakes races coming up on Saturday at Saratoga. For you harness fans out there, don't forget Saturday night is the Meadowlands Pace, one of the biggest races in America. 13 race card gets underway just after 6 o'clock. You can bet the whole thing with First Bet and Express Bet. Be sure to check out our handicapper Al Samaglia's picks for all of our harness racing action. He'll have you covered for the Meadowlands Pace on Saturday night, where there will be 1 million first reward points up for grabs on Meadowlands Pace night Saturday at the Big M. $500,000 or 500,000 points in the early pick 4 hit and split, and then in the late pick 4 hit and split, another 500,000. So $1 million up for grabs at the Big M on Saturday night for harness players. That same million first rewards points offer extends to thoroughbred players each day at Saratoga this weekend for the late pick 4. $1 million first rewards points up for grabs. So a big chance there. Of course, first rewards points, which you earn as being a member with First Bet and Express Bet. Be sure to opt into all the promos. Get involved with that. Hit the late pick 4 at Saratoga on any day this opening weekend, and you'll share 1 million first rewards points. Again, you can redeem those for cash deposits into your account. Handicapping information, products from the pro shop, swag, all kinds of great things there. So be sure to take part in those promotions. Jeff, let's get handicapping. On Saturday, we start things off at Woodbine. It's the My Dear Stakes. 5.5 furlongs, 2-year-old fillies, the juveniles in Canada, just starting to get warmed up this time of year. Who do you like in this early season dash?
I like a couple of shippers from south of the Canadian border. We're talking about Obliging. This is a very fast filly by Munnings, debut. 10 cents on the dollar at Monmouth and 1 for fun, like a really good filly. You talk about an athlete. I mean, she looks like a number 1 pick in the NFL as a running back. You'll see that for yourself. And then a filly named Bullet, a Warfront filly who got no play. Well, I got a little play anyway. In her debut, won that race from way out of it after getting left at the gate. But that was on grass. And if you think that grass horses can be just as effective on the all-weather, we'll find out if that's true with Bullet, because it's to run back to her turf race on the all-weather at Woodbine, and she would be very, very tough to beat. But Obliging is just a rocket ship. I mean, she was so impressive in her debut at Monmouth. Got a 75 buyer number, which does not do her justice. Didn't really wasn't really asked for her best. And if she can take that form on dirt now and transfer it to the all-weather, then she'll probably win. So a couple of question marks there, but a race worth watching for sure.
Surface changes for both of those that you've talked about. Of course, in the 2-year-old stakes races this time of year, expect horses to be coming off victories. A lot of last out maiden winners. All 9 runners in the My Deer Stakes won last time out. So they're all coming into form, a rarity in that respect. You talked about Obliging. Let's give the fans a chance to see and hear her win in her career debut for Jorge Delgado at Monmouth. Matt Ditterman with the call.
It opens up a length and a half coming off the turn. Obliging going comfortably on the lead, has shaken 2 lengths clear. Tekka takes the second position, but this is just a workout for Obliging. Paco Lopez sitting chilly here aboard this filly by Munnings, and she will win on debut by about 4 with plenty left in the tank. Obliging comfortably. Tekka second. Apocalyptic holds off Katerina Rostova for the 3rd spot.
All right, it's Obliging. Top pick for Jeff in the My Deer Stakes. Let's go to
Jeremy,
golf. Yes.
Jeremy, I want to throw something in real quick on that.
Sure.
Though. You don't often get a chance to compare horses coming out of a same race or a different race with the 2-year-olds. But Obliging won her race, and the filly that was second in that race was Tekka. So I went to school today to watch Tekka run in her second start at Saratoga opening day in a pretty decent maiden race. And she finished 3rd. That's the good news. The bad news is she probably got beat 14 lengths or so as the first 2 wired the field. So now I'm not so sure who Obliging beat, because you never really know that.
Right.
And sometimes if the horse that runs second comes back and gets dusted, it may not mean anything, because we're not talking about Obliging getting dusted. We're talking about the runner-up. But it does mean that Obliging is going to have to prove herself again. And that's another reason why I want to see how good she is, because this is probably a tougher field than she just ran against.
Those are the 2-year-old sprint fillies. At Woodbine, we go to the 3-year-old sprint fillies at Gulfstream for the Aelia. Again, once upon a time, the summit of speed was at Calder, then at Gulfstream, and they ran all these sprint races together. They've been spread out over the past week or so. We saw the Smile Sprint back a ways. Now we've got the Aelia. 3-year-old fillies in this one, a field of 7, Jeff, to go 7/8 of a mile. Our Harper Rose is certainly a veteran to the local stakes scene. She was good last year, winning in the Susan's Girl Stakes at this 7-furlong distance. She came back this year, won the Forward Gal as well at Gulfstream Park. She's doing what she does best, running at Gulfstream in the sprint ranks. Is it our Harper Rose, or are you going to try to beat her off of that debacle she had in the 8 Bells at Churchill?
Yeah, I don't know if she's as good as she was as a 2-year. A lot of these fillies, they get very good early, and then they just don't make a lot of progress. And then the other side of the coin is Muccia, number 1 on the program. She ran her first 3 starts, very ordinary, actually. Numbers were just average. Then she goes in the Game Face Stakes. She's predictably cold on the board, as her form would dictate that she should be, 15-1 in a 7-horse field. Nobody expected her to win. And then she's going to win the Game Face. Well, we'll show that race. But tell me if this horse looks like a 15-1 shot, and where in the heck did this effort come from? She went from a 61 buyer in her previous race to a 90 buyer. That's a graded stakes number for a 3-year-old filly. And visually, she looked just like it was real. It was not some phony race. And that was at 6 furlongs. This race is at 7. Tell me if you think she shouldn't like the extra distance based on this race that she just turned in.
Yeah, and I think you'll hear in track announcer Pete Aiello's voice, he's a little surprised, too, at what she put out here. Here's Muccia winning the Game Face.
Gap of another 2 underway is Chi-Chi as they come past the quarter-mile mark. On the outside, Muccia issues the challenge to Hall and Ice. Down at the rail, it's Marshmallow Queen. Dot is next as they straighten for home. Up now to take the lead now. Muccia fighting with her is Hall and Ice. These 2 kick on at 14-1. It's Muccia who has the lead by 2.5, and she's a winner. Miguel Vasquez wins the feature for JR Ranch. Muccia by 3.5. Second is Hall and Ice.
Several of those right back in this race. I can't understand why they would flip the script on that runner coming out of that same race, the way she finished up, like you said. And again, if our Harper Rose isn't back to that ace 2-year-old form where she was such a good early developer, it's Muccia's race to lose. And from the rail, Gustavo Delgado should have the one to beat in there. Jeff's top pick the one in the Aelia, race number 10 at Gulfstream. Let's go to Horseshoe Indianapolis now, where they had the Indiana Derby a week ago. We've got action back at Horseshoe Indy in the Caesars Handicap. This is one of the top races at the track for the 3-year-olds on the turf. The 3-year-olds on the dirt, of course, in the Indiana Derby for $500,000 plus last week. The 3-year-old colts on the dirt go for $150,000 in the Caesars. And we've got some shippers in here. We've got my favorite named horse in the 3-year-old crop, Lucky Jeremy. He's back. We've never seen him on the turf. We'll see if he shakes out on the grass here. A pretty good looking group in this spot here, Jeff, for $150,000, including a horse who comes off a tough beat last time out in the Penn Mile, a race I saw up close. Aspenite. Let's go back and watch the Penn Mile where Aspenite in a 3-way photo.
Aspenite has run in behind them. First World War and Frankie Dettori, fifth and coming 4 wide, and they're into the stretch. Trickery moves up alongside Upset. Aspenite has come through on the inside. Behind them, Good Lord Lorry. First World War is putting in a run down the middle. Trickery to catch. First World War on the outside. Aspenite down toward the rail. These three coming down to the finish in the Penn Mile, and it's a photo finish.
Too close to call there for Larry Comas. 3 noses on the wire. It was First World War, the victor. Second place finish for Aspenite. Trickery, the horse who ran third, has come back to win since then. First World War and other horses out of the Penn Mile didn't have any success in their return bids. So it's kind of a mixed reaction on the Penn Mile. Some have run well out of it. Some have not. What do you make of Aspenite on the comeback here for him?
You kind of hope that it all lines up. You know what? I don't care if it's bad or good. I just wanted to know what it is, right? This one got mixed signals.
Right.
Aspenite ran well. And if you look at his form, he's run against better horses than what he's facing here, which is why, and remember, this is a handicap. They used to exist a lot. I did look twice. They still run handicaps. Anyway, he's got 123 high weight. So on form, that's probably where he figures. He got through every step of the way. The number was very average. He had every chance. I mean, he ran good. He was 17-1. It was a step up in class for him. He'd been running against listed stakes and allowance races. But he's got good tactical speed. I'll give him that. And going a mile from the 3-hole, he's probably going to draft in and get a good trip. The blinkers go on your horse, Lucky Jeremy. And out of a mare by War Chant, he should like the grass. Who knows? Maybe he can loose on the lead. I wouldn't throw him out. He had a bad race in his last start in the Texas Derby, but I mean, he's got some form and some numbers. He's very, very solid on speed figures. I mean, he's got in the mid-80s. In fact, his best number is better than Aspenite. So if you're looking to get your money back, Jeremy, he's 12-1. I'd gamble on him at that price. I expect Aspenite is the one to beat, and he's going to get a good trip and all that, but I'm willing to, first time blinkers, first time grass. What do you want? Good numbers. Lucky Jeremy at 12-1's a gamble for me.
Another one we like is Twirling Point, of course, out of Kitten's Point, one of my favorite horses for Graham Motion, the mare for this one. Twirling Point is campaign maybe is, I don't want to say aggressive because the spots that he's running in aren't like the biggest races, but he's being geographically aggressively campaigned. I mean, started at Kentucky Downs, then to Woodbine, then to Turfway, then out to Santa Anita for the Eddie Logan, stayed out west for a little bit to the Rushaway, last time out in the Jersey Derby at Monmouth. Now they go out to Indianapolis with him to Horseshoe. Twirling Point's been all around, and he's pretty much fired everywhere he's been. He comes off a nose win in the Jersey Derby last time, gets Florent Giroux to ride, who rides the course there, of course, very well at Horseshoe Indy when he ships up. He's usually on some pretty good horses for Brad Cox. He's on the favorite in the morning line here. Twirling Point's going to be a handful. It's a horse who's always right there, Jeff. This is a competitive race. There are 2 or 3 really good options in here.
It is, and you mentioned Twirling Point, but he's 9-5, and he's run 7 times, and he's never broken the 80 mark in terms of a buyer, which may or may not mean anything, but I'm taking a horse who's passed the buyer figure several times, and that's Lucky Jeremy. So, and he's 12-1. So on that angle alone, it's not the end all, obviously. One angle, but I mean, you could make a case for it. But Twirling Point, he got some versatility because he's one gate to wire, he's one third. He's a horse that usually puts himself in the right spot. Pretty versatile, run on grass and all weather. So I understand why he's the kind of horse that people would want to bet on because they're going to get him to fire. Whether or not there's value there, that's a different question.
3-year-olds on the on the turf at Horseshoe Indianapolis. We got 3-year-old fillies on the turf in the Boiling Springs next up at Monmouth Park. It'll be the first of 2 stakes races we look at Saturday from the Jersey Shore. The Boiling Springs goes as race number 5. The Blue Sparkler will be the 9th for turf sprinters. So let's start off here with the 5th, the Boiling Springs. $100,000. My own is 16th in here. We got a couple for the main track on the outside of the gate. So more than likely a field of 6 here if we keep it on the grass. Boiling Springs, Jeff, who do you like?
I really like Brock Nardini here. I know we haven't seen her since last September as a 2-year-old. She won her first start, so we know she can fire fresh. She did that at Saratoga, by the way, and she did it visually very impressive, so much that I actually gambled on her in the Natama, the Grade 1 race. She came out of the maiden race. Obviously, the connections thinking that she had a chance. I did too. She ran awful, but she had an awful trip as well. Kind of drew a line through that. Then ran in the Salima, and that was a stake, listed stakes, and she won that really easily and spent about 60% of her energy to do it. And she was entered then back in a turf stakes at Aqueduct after that in November and was scratched and then disappeared. So something must have sprung up. But if I look at her work tab here, she looks like she's got to be dead fit and ready. We know she can fire fresh. She's good enough on numbers. I think this is a race that Brock Nardini absolutely should be able to win.
And you get Paco Lopez riding at Monmouth, where he's always so strong in the saddle. Let's go back. It's been a while to the Salima Stakes. The last time we saw her in September at Laurel Park with Dave Rodman's call, Brock Nardini winning the Salima.
Way on that turn. Let's see, Positive Carry down to the inside has a bit of run, but now Positive Carry needs a place to go. Just in behind a flight of runners, some 7s in the front. Going to be guided in between horses for the stretch drive. And here comes Positive Carry. Positive Carry let loose and finds room down to the inside. Brock Nardini, Positive Carry down to settle it. Brock Nardini and now Flowers for Me takes second very game. Down inside, Positive Carry in tight. Yatta! Late run on the far outside. Brock Nardini breaks away to win in the Salima. Brock Nardini from Flowers for Me second. Yatta! Followed by Positive Carry.
Who's going to make the lead in this race could be a question mark in the Boiling Springs. Maybe Madam Mischief from the rail will try to take him as far as she can, because the 2 Chad Browns in here that'll probably be favored in third choice, favored in second choice, Spaladay and Lady DeBerry are both closers. When one trainer has 2 horses in the race, I like to see them have varying running styles, differing running styles. They're both going to need the same kind of setup and the same kind of trip, Spaladay and Lady DeBerry. Brock Nardini, an off-the-pace type as well. Maybe Madam Mischief, keying second in here, leads a long way, gets nailed on the wire by one that might just be a little bit better. But I think that kind of horse can run second quite often. So Madam Mischief from the rail, give me that one maybe to run second in here with a forward trip throughout. Let's go to the Blue Sparkler Stakes. It's the co-feature on the card Saturday at Monmouth. 5.5 furlong turf sprint. I've always said this, not necessarily about this particular race, but Monmouth turf sprinters overall, highly underrated nationally. When you see these horses later in the year that have run turf sprints at Monmouth and they go other places, these races usually stack up very, very well. So don't be surprised if there's something in here worth playing somewhere else at a, maybe a more prestigious venue somewhere, or even out of an allowance race coming from Monmouth, a Monmouth maiden turf sprint or allowance turf sprint. Those horses are very competitive when they ship around the country later on in the year. Blue Sparkler, $100,000. This is for the 3-year-old fillies. So who do you like in here, Jeff?
I really like Tiffany Gold. I watched both of her races at Gulfstream Park. The first one was on the all-weather. The second one was on grass, and now she's obviously moving up in class. Very, very fast on numbers. 81 Byron and 87. That's really, really good for a 2-year-old. And I mean, I'm a 3-year-old, but I mean, the bottom line for me is that Tiffany Gold is a filly that does what I love to see in a sprinter. She's got great quickness leaving the gate. Then she kind of switches off midway and looks like she's had enough. And then they turning into the stretch, she switches lead, and she goes, and she takes off again. She did it in her debut on the all-weather. She comes back in a first-level allowance, wins it by 5. Same thing, went 55 flat on grass. That is flying for any horse, much less a 3-year-old filly. And again, I'm looking at this race, and there's other so-called speed in the race, but in watching the others, there is no doubt in my mind that of all the horses in this race that have shown they want to go to the front, nobody is quicker than Tiffany Gold, and nobody can give you a second move despite being under pressure than Tiffany Gold. So I don't know what price she's going to be, but I'm that to me, she's a single and a gamble for a winning barn, and Paco taking over. She's probably going to be pretty short, and Paco knows her because he rode her the first time. Tiffany Gold for me to wire this field on Monmouth's 5.5 furlong turf course.
And it's a turf course they get over, right? It's one of those kind of short crop turf courses, really top of the ground kind of turf course, like they have at Gulfstream. And the way she handled it last time was very impressive. She'll probably transfer that form up north.
It's Tiffany Gold used very hard. Fairhope Curley is alongside trying to keep up in second. These two now 3 better than Lucy's Cookie, who's there third. Kamichi, she's just not going to fire. She's back toward the back of the group as they straighten for home. It's Tiffany Gold who cut the corner. That certainly helped her cause. Now she's 3 lengths to the good. From the outside, it's Bedrock Birdie. Rolling at the rail is Lincoln Park, but it's Tiffany Gold who finds a gear the rest just don't have. Tiffany Gold at 3-1 to win. Kamichi figured out there was a race going on and ran on for second.
We'd be remiss if we didn't mention Safi Joseph, the way he has been winning races up and down the coast. Delaware Handicap, he won the stakes race to Schuylerville today with the Queen's MG at 40+1. He's won 7 or 8 races just this month in July down at Gulfstream already in limited race days. He's got Tiger Bell at 15-1 in the morning line, who hasn't been seen since May, running in the Soaring Softly last time out at Aqueduct.
Right.
Do not be surprised. This horse coming off a 2-month layoff shows something that she doesn't show on paper in her recent starts. Everything for Safi is running off the screen right now. Take that with what you want, but I would not let Tiger Bell run off the screen again at a price without at least thinking about it. You've got to put the horse into your consideration. I think Jeff's top pick in here looks awfully strong at Tiffany Gold. Maybe you take both those horses with those South Florida connections, Barboza and Safi, in a potential exacta. Let's go to Saratoga now on Saturday, where a trio of stakes races are on the schedule. Again, remind you, opening weekend at Saratoga, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 4-day racing week. Stakes races on Friday at the Spa is the Coronation Cup and the Wilton Stakes. So when we get to Saturday, we're starting to get into some big ones now. We get to the Kelso Grade 3. The Grade 1 Diana will be the first Grade 1 stakes race of the meet. And then we've got the Grade 3 Sanford. That's the sister-brother race to what we saw on Thursday at Saratoga. The Schuylerville kicking off the meet, then the Sanford, the first leg of the Hopeful Stakes series for the 2-year-olds. So let's start off race number 2. It's the Kelso Stakes. Why are we running race number 2 in Graded Stakes Company? Because we only have 5 entered. That's the bottom line. We've got 1 entered for main track only, Repo Rocks. But this is a race here, Jeff, where you've got Mysterious Night, Carl Spackler, Talk of the Nation, all coming out of the poker last time out. So as we start to handicap this race, let's just let the fans see the poker stakes, what transpired there, and you could tell me how you think it might come back similar or come back differently. Here's the poker stakes from about a month or so ago at Belmont at Aqueduct.
Carl Spackler third, Mysterious Night, Casa Creed outside of them, and then Kubrick there at the top of the stretch. And it is Talk of the Nation up to get a narrow lead. Carl Spackler inside Mysterious Night. Casa Creed still has 4 to make up, and a tough Ice Chocolat is not going away. Ice Chocolat, Talk of the Nation, head to head. Ice Chocolat with plenty left pulls away in the end to score in the poker. Mysterious Night in a tight photo at Talk of the Nation.
So 2 of those are back, the second and third place finishers. Ice Chocolat, the $50 winner who won that day, not back in here, and they're probably happy that she's not. If you had her that day, cash your money and don't push your luck trying to win back-to-back against this same group. Carl Spackler, very disappointing in that race as the 8 or 9-5 favorite in there. Does he rebound for Chad Brown? Do you like somebody else in this particular spot? The Kelso back at the same distance as the poker, a mile. But again, we switch turf courses here now to Saratoga.
Well,
that was Saratoga. The poker.
That was Saratoga.
That was run during the Belmont.
With all these different Belmont at Aqueduct, Saratoga,
right.
Belmont at Saratoga, Aqueduct somewhere else, but that was Saratoga. But Mysterious Night, I picked him on top because he can finish, and I think they tried something different. He's normally a horse that shows speed, and they got him covered up. And I think what they learned, I think William Buick wrote him, is that here's a horse that you can get him covered, but you better not expect to burst the final 16th of a mile. He's kind of a long stride. He's more of a grinder. He better be in the fray, but I don't know whether he really wants to be necessarily in front. He won in Dubai from stalking position, so he can do that. but I don't have any trust in anything here. I mean, Carl Spackler actually ran against Mysterious Night as a 2-year-old, and I mean, I don't know what happened to him last time. He was outside, wide, but it shouldn't have cost him the kind of race that he had. He was flat as a pancake in the final 16th of a mile. And so I don't know whether I trust him to bounce back or not. Mysterious Night's going to get a good ground-saving trip. He just has to get loose at the quarter pole, not the 8 pole, because he's going to need more room to kind of grind it out, He can't explode. But if he gets a good clear trip, and I'm sure that's what Appleby will tell Pratt, try to get clear at the quarter pole and then make an extended run. Don't wait for that spurt. On the basis of that, I think he can win. But if you had me draw a name out of a hat and say, hey, make a case for that horse among the 5, I probably could fake it at least if nothing else, because they take turns, this group. I don't know.
He looks like the right one to me out of the poker. Talk of the Nation is just, flat late in every one of his races. Right. He's right there and he just gets beat a length ahead. I mean, he's going to run his race, but, they switch, here that, there's no big weight shift or anything like that. So I don't see where he finishes with any more oomph. Carl Spackler's going to need the rebound. Mysterious Night makes a lot of sense. X factor in here would be the newcomer to this group anyway, Northern Invader, for Cherie DeVos having an outstanding, spring forward since about April. Her horses have all been running outstanding. Jose Ortiz is going to ride this one. Comes out of the Arlington Stakes last time in a mile 16th to Churchill. Showed speed in the last 2 starts. Is not necessarily a committed front runner, but in a race where there's not a ton of pace here, unless Dutro's horse from the rail, Call Me Harry on the class rise, just guns out of there from the inside. You can see Northern Invader with a pretty nice trip in here. Maybe an X factor, but Mysterious Night looks to be classier to me than that one on paper. And so when it comes down to the final 1/8 of a mile, if Mysterious Night is already out of that pickle instead of waiting inside the 8th pole, then should be able to run these down.
I would say, though, that if Northern Invader, if they let him loose on the lead, he could be tough because he's a miler. Every time they try him a little farther than that, he's kind of like, what are you doing to me, But going a mile on the inner turf, and I don't think Mysterious Night will be sent. The rail horse, Call Me Harry, might. And if they let him go, Northern Invader will probably fold over and sit second, which is fine, but he won't get the front running, controlling speed kind of trip that if you give it to him, he'll run his best. So it's a place where the piece is going to be. You kind of think where they should be, but sometimes it doesn't turn out that way. So and really to be right to cash an 8-5 or a 2-1, not that interested, quite frankly.
Right. The first big turf stakes of the meet, though, that comes up the Kelso in race number 2. We'll see if Chad Brown does what he does, win big races on the turf at Saratoga. He's got Carl Spackler in there, but the race Brown is really known for on Saturday is the Diana Stakes. That's the featured 10th race on the card. Mile and an 1/8. This is a $500,000 race in the filly and mare turf division in terms of Breeders' Cup talk. And Chad Brown has won this race 8 times. That's a lot. 6 in the last 7. That's awfully frequent. And he's got 5 of the 10 horses in the entry box as we await scratches and changes on Saturday for the Diana. Chad Brown, his lineup reads this way. He's got Coppice in post number 2. He's got Gina Romantica out of the 5, White Beam out of the 6, Fluffy Socks the 7, and then he's also got the outside horse, the 10, Chili Flag. All Chili Flag has done is won 3 starts in a row, including the Honey Fox, the Distaff Turf Mile at Churchill, and the Just a Game last time out. So Chad's got a pretty good hand to play in here, Jeff, including the defending champion in this race, White Beam. And I landed on her for my express bet race of the week play. But if you go back and look at history, you better be a pretty damn good filly to win the Diana back-to-back, because the ones who have done it before, you've heard these names: Miss Grillo, Tempted, Chuvie, Forever Together, and Sister Charlie. There aren't any slugs winning this race back-to-back years. You don't luck into it twice. No. So White Beam had better come back running.
Well, I thought she ran well in the Just a Game. Got beat a half length. I always thought of her as being a filly or a mare that ran in the same races as some of her other Chad Brown horses, and they usually had 1 or 2 better. So I'll give her credit. She's won a couple of them. And in fact, as you mentioned, she won the Diana. Ran well last time out. Last time she was sitting second, 1 off the rail. She was in a stalking position. This time, if I'm looking at the form, she might get to the hedge, and she might, might make the running. And
Yeah.
You give her a little bit of a breathing room down, early on going a mile and eighth where she's got a long run in to get into her rhythm and then won't have to go fast. I could see her wire the field. You came to the same conclusion in terms of her ability to win. I don't know if you see the race that way, but I ended up with her at 4-1 because if she's not as good as some of these, she's very, very close. And given the trip I think she's going to get, I think you're going to get the best version of White Beam.
I think she's no worse than second, with Evie Jet's the only other horse in the race that might show some speed in here. And I don't think she's good enough, especially as we stretch out to a mile and an eighth, to outlast him. So she either gets that beautiful first over behind a miler and just swallows her up, or she takes him on the, jaunt herself on the front end. Her race last year when she won this, she beat In Italian, who was bet. Chad's got 5 in this race. None of them are as good as In Italian. I mean, In Italian at that point was absolutely a standout, and she was able to run her down. I actually think this is an easier spot this year than it was last year. Let's take a look last year at Saratoga in the Diana. White Beam running down the big favorite.
There at the top of the stretch, White Beam firing a big shot on the outside of In Italian. In Italian a length. White Beam on the outside, market segmentation, trying to get by Fev Rover for third. Coming to the 16th pole, In Italian set down. White Beam trying to get her. In Italian ahead, White Beam. Big effort from Fev Rover. In Italian, White Beam, a final try. White Beam in Italian.
And sometimes when 3 horses hit the wire close like that, you say maybe it wasn't a great race, but third place finish in there, Fev Rover, came back, won the Beverly T in her next start. That was a very good addition of the Diana. And there's depth in this year's field, Jeff. I mean, Moira's in here. She's a Queen's Plate winner from a couple of years ago. Didia is as good as she's ever been. She's age 6 now. But, man, her last race in the New York Grade 1 race at the Belmont at Saratoga meet, she ran on Belmont week. She ran beautifully over this turf course in her first start at Saratoga. That was as good as she's looked at age 6.
Well, and she earned a career top number of 100 Buyer in that race. And again, keep in mind, she's 6 years old. So she's on the top of her game, and she's going to settle in the second flight, and she's going to fire. I don't know if they'll come back to her. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, but major contender. So you reminded me of looking at last year's race when White Beam won. And I was always an Italian big fan of hers. I just loved her abilities and how genuine she was. And I wanted her to win this race. And I'm saying at the 8th pole, that other great filly's not going away. And I'm saying, get away from her.
Yeah.
And she couldn't do it, And that I was impressed with that, because I went back and looked at the form and said, how'd that happen? Well, since then, she's consistently run well. So, 4-1. I think that's probably a fair price. I wouldn't take much less, but I think based on her form and the projected pace flow, especially with the other speed drawn outside of her, which means if Pratt wants to send White Beam out and establish the rail and get in front, it's okay with me. That's where I looked at the race, and I think we'll both be happy if it turns out.
Flag coming off of 3 straight stakes wins. You got Compass, who was thought to be the best of the Chad Browns, and she lost 2 in a row as the favorite. Now she's probably going to be a price under Frankie and drawn well in the 2. If you kind of missed her at a short price in her last 2, maybe she kind of gets it done this time. And then Fluffy Socks coming off that blowout win in the Gala Red over a soft turf course. That was a weak field. This is a much tougher spot, but Fluffy Socks at age 6, she's made $1 million too. And we haven't even mentioned her getting into like 7-8 deep into this race. Gina Romantica's made $1 million too. Just a really good looking race. This is a legit Grade 1, as good as it gets. Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf Division. Looking forward to seeing who comes out of the Diana. Jeff and I both on the same horse, and I think you're right with that price. I think 4-1 on White Beam would be an excellent price, and that's where I'm looking for that one. Maybe for a little bit of a price horse for the exotics, as I mentioned in the race of the week analysis. Mission of Joy, 3rd beat and a half in that common race last time out, the Just a Game Stakes. I think this one going to a mile and an eighth is going to enjoy the distance a little bit more by Kitten's Joy out of the Smart Strike mare. And you get John Velasquez. He's won the Diana 6 times. 6 times winner of this race. So I'll give Mission of Joy a little bit of shot underneath in the exacta, but almost all my money, 4-1 or plus, is going right on the nose. We're not going to try to get too deep in the exotics when you've got 8-9 contenders in this race who could easily be part of the exacta. Also on Saturday at Saratoga, the Spa features the Sanford Stakes, Grade 3, $175,000. This is the first of 3 steps towards the Hopeful Stakes. They don't go around 2 turns in the 2-year-old ranks at Saratoga. They start here at 6 furlongs. They'll end up in the Saratoga Special at 6.5, and then the Hopeful Stakes at 7 at the end of the meet Labor Day weekend. So let's see how we get started on the 2-year-old stakes ranks here for the Colts in the Sanford Stakes. Jeff, who do you see on top?
Well, Mentee was all the rage in his debut. He was supposed to win. He did win. He ran very fast, 56-4, which is smoking on dirt there. And he's trained really well since. He's a very, very fast horse, and he's breezing on the inside here. And he does not give you the impression in the workout that he's, number one, all that fast, or they're certainly not speed crazy. His ears are up. He's just kind of galloping along, which is unusual for a 2-year-old who's already run once and ran hard on the front end every step of the way. But he does not look like a horse that's going to have distance limitations. And I'm saying distance, he's going to go from 5 furlongs to 6, which is not distance, but it is an eighth of a mile farther. And he does his best work in this work. After they hit the clubhouse turn, he's going to leave his workmate and really look good galloping out. So I think I think he's going to be able to be okay in the final furlong, even though he ran his maiden win. He won that race by a nose after leading by 5 at the 8th pole. It looked like he was completely collapsing, which you never expect a horse like that to do, who's working like this, Jeremy. So I'm going to give him a try. I mean, Fletcher's wheeling him back pretty quick, and I think he probably has convinced Todd that even though he won that race, and the number was very fast, 88 buyer for a firster for a 2-year-old, I think Todd's probably pretty confident that we did not see the best of Mentee. We'll see what he can do here. Sometimes they don't follow through. Sometimes they run a lot better based on what way he just breezed and his number that towers over the field. I think Mentee is probably going to win at 6-5 or less.
Yeah, look, that margin squeezed at the end, and he was barely a winner by a nose, but there were 4.5 lengths then to third. Beyond that was 5 3/4 lengths to fourth. Maybe the runner-up, Colloquial, was awfully good too, and that's what we saw with those two hitting the wire in that race that Mentee won at Belmont at Aqueduct. Look, this is Todd Pletcher, Rapoli Stable, Well-Bred City of Light out of Nona Bella. You look down at the rest of these 2-year-olds, and nothing against the trainers, but Kevin Rice, Butch Reed out of Parks, George Weaver. There's a Steve Asmussen in here, 3 Echoes. Jerry Robb brings one. Studley Do-Right up from Maryland, who won here in the Tremont Stakes. You got Carlos Martin with a runner, Jeremiah Englehart. Look, you're not talking about a bunch of 700,000 Keeneland September sales from the big barns showing up in this particular spot. Mentee should beat a field like this based on pedigree and connections, and as well as he ran. And if you like speed figures as well, that 88 obviously is a pretty good standout on paper.
Yeah, I was looking at the trainers. It looks like an NBA Las Vegas Summer League team.
There you go. Right. But, they're wearing the Lakers jersey, but it's not exactly Durant and LeBron.
No. But I'm curious to see Mentee. I want to watch him run. I want to see if all the rage before his race has some merit to it, and like we say, we'll see if he is all that in this race.
Studley Do-Right, as we said, did run here over the track at Saratoga, winning the Tremont. That race was run during the Belmont Festival. Came from out of nowhere, 11 back to win off the pace. Now it goes from 5.5 to 6. We'll see. Jerry Robb, one of the veteran trainers on the Maryland circuit. He's had good horses for decades. Little Bull John, most famously back in the 80s, outstanding multimillionaire. Jerry Robb has always been known for his ability to get the 2-year-olds, and we will see if he can get back-to-back stakes wins with that one, Studley Do-Right. But Jeff's got Mentee for Pletcher and Rapoli Stables, his pick in the Sanford Stakes. That's going to wrap up our 8 stakes races to handicap for this weekend. I want to remind you again, play the late pick 4 at Saratoga here on opening weekend with First Bet and Express Bet, because there are 1 million first wager rewards points up for grabs. That means if you hit the late pick 4, you get not only your pari-mutuel earnings, but you also share with just other players who hit the late pick 4 with First Bet and Express Bet 1 million first wager rewards points. So that's a big deal. You can redeem those for cash in your wagering account and credits, handicapping products that you buy and use in your handicapping process. All those things, those points can be redeemed for. So be sure to check that out. We also have a $10 money back special on select races this weekend at Saratoga. Be sure to check out the promotion section section in the tab on the First Bet app or on the website at expressbet.com. When you log into your account on the desktop, check out the promos each day, and you'll find out which 2 races are part of the money back special each and every day. All right, Jeff, we've got some handicapping to finish up over the course of the next 24 hours or so as we get set for the Saturday cards at Saratoga. You always have to stay loose and limber for the weather in upstate New York. Expected to be good conditions for the Saturday racing, but you never know when a storm may roll in, so we'll stay loose for that. And I know you're going to get set for handicapping some Del Mar coming up next week. I guess entries will be drawn here over the weekend towards the opening week's races at Del Mar. Opening day coming up, what, Friday? Is that the first card?
Saturday.
Oh, it's going to open on Saturday, yeah.
Yeah, they're going to open on Saturday, which is interesting, and I'm looking forward to that for sure. And nothing's better, as far as I'm concerned, than when you've got Del Mar and Saratoga going on at the same time, and they do. I commend them. They do a very good job of spacing the races. They really put an effort into making sure they don't overlap. It's good for all parties, so you can bet both tracks. And of course, we've got workouts at both tracks as well. So if you are gambling, you can go to xbtv.com and check out the works. And if you believe it's a valuable tool, it's even more valuable because you don't have to pay for it.
That's right. Also, a very handy workout report available in the ExpressBet member section. So be sure when you log into your account, it'll give you all the workouts that are in today. So you're not just fishing around for them on the XBTV website. Once you're in the wagering account section with ExpressBet, you can get that daily workout report each day. And that can help you with a lot of time save as you do your research towards handicapping. Good luck this weekend playing the races. A final reminder, Friday at the Spa, we've got a $116,000 pick six carryover. Good luck playing that with the $1 minimum traditional pick six at the Spa. Jeff and I will be back on Tuesday for the It's Official podcast when we wrap up a big weekend of racing. Take care, everybody.